And we're all familiar with the scripture, but let's read it again. Now faith is the assurance, the confirmation, the title deed of the things we hope for, being the proof of things we do not see, and the conviction of their reality. Faith perceiving as real fact what is not revealed to the senses. So let's break that down. In other words, you are believing for something, and I'm believing for something we cannot see. Is anybody believing for anything tonight? You're believing for God to do something. Okay. These are things you can't see. Maybe you're praying for a healing, or maybe you're praying for a specific need in your family, healing of relationships, or maybe you're praying for money to come in, or a different job. But see, we can't see it, and the evidence of our ability is to stand and be steadfast in spite of the fact of our circumstances, and in spite of the fact that I don't see anything. I don't see anything happening, but I'm praying, okay? The substance is the assurance of things hoped for. You can't have faith without hope. You have to hope, and hope that God is going to do something, and the confident assurance. So the substance is our steadfastness and certainty that God is who he says he is, and we're going to talk more about that. For Abraham, human reason for hope being gone, hoped on in faith, fully satisfied and assured that God was able and mighty to keep his word and do what he had promised. Abraham knew God enough to know that God had power to perform the word he had promised him. That's very important. He knew God that much. Romans 18a and 21. It's the proof of things we don't see. If you can see it, you don't need faith. And that's very frustrating for us, isn't it? Because we keep praying and we're waiting, and we're going to talk about that more, but we don't see it. And we can't touch it, we don't taste it with our lips, and we don't hear anything with our ears. And we don't feel anything. But yet we're trusting God for something specific in our lives, and we don't see anything happen. So we're promising. And this faith defies human logic. It doesn't make sense because I don't see it, feel it, touch it. There's no sign of it coming down the road. Have you ever been there? You know, when you're standing in faith, you don't see anything happening at all. In fact, sometimes you see other things happening. A great illustration is Paul Crouch. I heard this recently, who is the founder of TBN, who just went to be with the Lord last year. He needed a miracle. Back in the 80s, he needed $100,000 to keep the station on. So he had $65,000, and that was a lot of money back then. But he was in his office, just pacing back and forth and praying. He had a few hours before he had to get to the bank with this $100,000. So he was praying, and a Lutheran man who had been watching TBN, he was on his way to buy a boat or something. The guy must have had money. But he did believe in what they were doing. So he went to Paul's office, knocked on the door, and of course he let him in, and he started talking to him about how much it meant to have TBN, and Paul said, well, just come on, what are you going to do? And first he said, geez, I wonder if God speaks to a Lutheran. Wasn't that awful? That's what he said. But he kept listening. And the man told him that God spoke to him to come and give Paul $35,000. That's exactly the $100,000 he needed. Because our God has power to perform his word. Isn't that awesome? Our God has power. So sometimes he'll take you to the edge, and you don't see anything, and then all of a sudden it'll come through. But it's not an option. When God called Abraham, Noah, Moses, Jeremiah, Mary, and Joseph, they all had to walk by faith. And we're no exception. Tozer, a great theologian, said, faith is the gaze of the soul upon a saving God, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. In other words,